listeners to BizBlend, where strategy meets soul and business becomes personal. I'm your host Sana, and on this show, I dive deep into the minds and methods of today's change makers, especially those redefining what success looks like. Now, a theme that's close to my heart, listeners, and one that keeps showing up in my own leadership journey is intuitive servant leadership. We have had conversations on them. It's the idea that real power doesn't come from control, but from connection. It's about leading not from ego, but from empathy. And today, we are exploring that very lens through the eyes of someone who has discovered his leadership blueprint not in a boardroom, but in a high school classroom. My guest, Chris Sprague, whose work challenges the notion that great leadership must be domineering and solely results driven. Instead, he shines light on the rare but powerful style of inspirational, people focused leadership and why it might be the secret weapon behind truly high performing teams. So, Chris, welcome to the show, and I'm absolutely honored and inspired to have you here with us.
No, Sana, thanks for having me. I know that a podcast, like writing a book, is a labor of love. So I really appreciate it to be part of this.
Thank you so much, Chris. Okay, let's start
Sure.
with the origin, the origin story. So your leadership model starts with a math teacher, not a CEO, and that is really it ideally should be because that is like those are the fundamental years of every one of us. It starts with a math teacher, not a CEO. So what did that experience teach you about real influence and impact?
Sometimes when you're going through an experience at the time, you may not appreciate it. But in this case, this was calculus my senior year in high school. And I was truly excited to take this class, which illustrates my degree of nerditude. Um, but uh, to take calculus, partially it was the topic, but the other part was the teacher. His name was Mr. Gurish, and he was fantastic. You would go into class looking forward to calculus class. I know it's hard to believe, but a lot of times in calculus, the answers are one or zero, and not in his class. If something was one, it was his Spanish friend Juan, or if it was
Mhm.
zero, it was the number of Miss Sandstrom's friends. Now, I don't know how he got away with that, but we, what was amazing is everybody in that class just rolled up their sleeves, was happy to work hard. And he just always made it enjoyable. What was interesting was actually 6 months after the class was over because because Mr. Gersh instilled so much confidence in me in my math class,
Mhm.
I decided to take an elevated math in my first semester in college. So I didn't need to take college calculus, but I did anyways. And what was incredible was that we actually covered more than a semester of college calculus in 1 year in high school. Most classes when you go to college, you cover maybe 2 or 3 weeks and then you move on to other topics. So to me, that was mind-blowing that how could we work so hard, but enjoy it so much and achieve so much at the same time? So this was really my foray into inspirational leadership, those who inspire others to really be productive, but to do it in a way that you enjoy and you're happy to work hard. So, Sana, thank you for bringing up Mr. Gersh, because from there, what I started to do through my career was
Mhm.
to look for similar types of leadership and thought, well, is this normal or is this unusual?
Mhm.
And I started to leverage that approach in dealing with significant challenges. And I had the opportunity to lead a variety of transformations in Fortune 100 companies. And Mr. Gersh's example just stuck with me throughout all of it. How even in large organizations, we should be able to achieve incredible amounts of work. achieve incredible goals, but do it in a healthy and sustainable way where everyone is along for the journey.
This is such a rare moment or conversation where, a person is giving gratitude towards teacher because it's rare.
Yeah.
I haven't had many conversations where somebody would remember their teacher, professor, but it's so um, nice and so inspirational to know that you are giving gratitude, and that too when we are talking about leadership, because whenever this word comes in our mind, whenever we hear this word, all we see is CEOs, founders,
Yep.
in authority,
Yep.
control, leading, inspiring. But
Yeah.
this particular aspect, the motivation, the origin, that is absolutely beautiful, Chris.
Yeah, and Sana, it's interesting that you bring up CEOs because I would tell you I'm a self-professed leadership nerd and I enjoy reading leadership books or biographies. But I got to the point where I just felt like there's so many books that have a love affair with C-suite executives in Fortune 500 companies, and
Mhm.
I wasn't going to do that. Or you come away with the book and you think, I'm not sure what I need to do. Maybe it was interesting stories, but I wanted to, and that's what we try to do with our book, Lead Without Limits, is we want readers to have very clear insights what it means to be an inspirational leader. But then we've also integrated a workbook so that you come away with knowing, hey, I need to work on this, I need to work on that. So it really helps people to nudge them forward so they can truly develop as inspirational leaders.
Absolutely. That's wonderful, Chris. Wonderful. Thank you so much sharing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And also, you have worked on the ground. You have surveyed hundreds of people.
Yeah.
Um, what were I'm really curious to know what were the common threads and stories about inspirational leadership, um, and why are they so rare in the workplace, especially?
I- So what we did, this was in 23, was we interviewed over 400 people. And the
Mhm.
thought was, if I'm a recipient of inspirational leadership, if people are helping me to grow, to learn, to develop, and be more,
Mhm.
I'm more likely to work hard and I'm more likely to be happy when I'm doing it. So we asked people, how often have you been part of a work group where you achieved incredible results,
Mhm.
but people were happy to work hard? Similar, so like Sana, you're saying the research that we did, it was interesting because before we did the study, I thought, maybe it's about 50% of people. It turns out 90% of the participants said that they had experienced at least one of these groups that achieved incredible results, a positive and productive work group. What that
Mhm.
correlated to was at
Mhm.
most a third of your career would be in one of these groups or multiple groups.
Mm.
So we thought that's too low. That needs to be higher.
Mhm.
And then the next two questions were we asked who's most likely in these groups to challenge you and help you be your best. And it was interesting because they said yourself, your peers, and your immediate supervisor are about the same. But
Mhm.
least likely to help you to be your best is your leaders above your immediate supervisor. Now, there's a lot of ways you can take that. Um,
Uh,
on one hand, you could say, well, who do you interact with on a regular basis? It's yourself, your peers, and your direct supervisor. But I think there's also a tremendous opportunity for senior leaders to be more inspirational to elevate the organization they have the opportunity to lead. So, and I appreciate the chuckle there because, yeah, every time we share that result with people, there's usually a laugh. Well, and along that vein, really quick aside, McKinsey did a study in 23, and they actually asked close to 400 companies, the employees in 400 companies, if their C-suite leaders were inspiring and fit for purpose. almost
Mhm.
400 companies, and it's a mix of companies. So, Sana, if you were to guess, what percent of those 400 companies where the C-suite executives were inspiring and fit for purpose?
Oh, goodness. That's a tough guess. Less than 50%?
Yeah, 25%.
Oh my goodness, that's like half of even 50, 50 or 50%.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And look, I'm not trying to beat up on C-suite executives. The point is that they are pulled in so many different directions, but a lot of times inspiring and really driving towards a great future takes a backseat to other activities. But
Mhm.
Sana, going back to your question around the key elements, we then asked what were those key elements of these groups that were the recipients of inspirational leadership? And we found four primary elements. The first was a team first approach, where they were really promoting a we before me culture.
Okay.
What was interesting is they would say, I wanted to see the team be successful. They'd also say, I didn't want to let the team down. And
Mhm.
it's interesting because I can say as a leader myself in the past, you focus in on the individuals. You give performance feedback, you help and coach them, but you don't say, hey, if this team works really well together, what could they achieve?
Mm.
So that one was definitely a surprise. The second element was accelerate. And they accelerated progress by just constantly sharing information and they had clear expectations. The feedback we got was we were always questioning, we were always sharing information to make sure that we helped each other to have the information to make great decisions.
Mm.
And that one kind of made sense because communication is just so critical, but it was interesting to hear them say that they were equipping each other and really helping each other to be better. And they also said that they knew what great looked like. They knew that they had clear expectations, so they knew where they could go. And then the third piece, which I didn't see this one coming all, was elevate. What they did was they said, because we trusted each other, we were
Mhm.
pushing each other to be better. We were growing together so we could handle more together as a team.
Mm.
And then finally, the fourth one was realizing a powerful destination. They were working towards something that either never been done before or
Mhm.
was going to have a significant impact.
Mm.
And there may be some listeners out there who are saying, well, I work in this industry or that industry. Um, and it may question the remarkable impact, but a lot of times the remarkable impact can be helping each other. It can
True.
be being successful and growing the team. Um, there's some great companies out there. I don't know if you're familiar with Barry Waymiller.
Yeah,
Um,
I thought about it.
yeah, they're a private company that makes the equipment that makes basically cans and
Mm.
in the US, and I had an opportunity to visit one of their companies and,
Wow.
I compared to, say, like a pharmaceutical company or healthcare, their products don't immediately save lives, but you could just feel the energy in the building of people working towards meaningful work, and
Absolutely.
it was tangible. Um, so those were the 4 combined, and that's how we defined inspirational leadership.
Mhm.
Now, the one add-on to that I will share is if you have the opportunity to lead an organization, you have peers, you have direct reports, and you have broader organization, right?
Yeah.
How you lead those 3 is different. So we took a look at the model of team first, accelerate, elevate, realize, and taking those 4 elements, we said, well, if you lead an organization, the goal is really to inspire them is to have a clear future destination and enabling culture to help to get there.
Hmm.
Because if the organization knows where you're going, that is so powerful. You know, you if you get out of work, get out of bed every day and it's just the same thing day in, day out. But if you go to work knowing that you're working towards helping others or to achieve a significant impact,
a different feeling altogether. I love,
Absolutely.
I love,
Absolutely.
and it can be physically tiring, but you would not even feel that tiredness and that physical exhaustion, like the way you
Yep.
mentioned
Yep.
in the beginning with your high school maths classes and how much part of the college level, calculus you covered just
Yeah.
because you have a great teacher with you. I just want to bring one,
Sure.
no
Please.
addiction here, but as you mentioned about the stats and the survey that you did, um, when we talk about hierarchies, corporate hierarchies, C-suite, they would say that that's the reason because I am my now set of responsibilities or my KPIs or my job is to put out fires every day, make sure that we are actually on the path to achieve our goal. My job is to look at the bigger picture and help my team to look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
That's why I have senior managers, I have direct reportees, and everyone. So I need not follow that people first approach
Right.
at an aggressive level. Isn't it like counterintuitive that C-suite people, they're not supposed to like interact at the larger level with the team members?
Yeah. But Sana, you know what I'd say is when we think of the classic definition of that command and control, tough leadership,
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to take a really hard look at that because I would argue that the old school command and control leadership embraces mediocrity and is
Mm. Yep.
so let me give you a quick example. So
Mm-hmm.
let's say I'm leading an IT project, maybe ERP or SAP go live, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to go to the executive sponsor, maybe a C-suite, like you said, and
Mm-hmm.
I have to let them know that we're behind schedule and we're over budget. The classic C-suite that we're thinking about is going to slam their fist on the table and they're going to say, this is not acceptable. I'm not happy with this and you need to fix it.
Exactly.
But what they're really saying is, I don't believe you. I don't care about your problems. And quite frankly, I'm not going to help you. And
You
that's
just
that's
step.
what it's lazy leadership.
Yeah.
But
Right.
if the same leader comes back and says, you know what, I'm sure no one's happy. We need to understand really what's going on, so we can fix this, and let's try to be proactive and look ahead. So in a week or 2 weeks, whatever time frame, come back to
Mhm.
me and let the leadership team know what's going on and what do you need.
Absolutely.
You know what that does? Because that's at the executive level. It's still people focused. But now, situation one, if I'm getting chewed out, what I'm going to do is make sure the optics look good. Everything's green. We're meeting all the timelines. But behind the scenes, I'm doing trade offs for that system
Mhm.
to meet a deadline. The second
Mhm.
approach, what I'm now doing is I've got accountability to really understand it. We're going to have open dialogues. We're going to really work to have this. And there's healthy pressure that's put on the project team. And I know that this is an example with a project team, but you can picture this with um, updates from a supervisor to a direct report or a C-suite to one of the VPs. Unfortunately, we've probably all seen it too often. But to your point, that people first leadership at the C-suite level is so much more effective. And quite frankly, it's more engaged and you're going to achieve better results in the end.
Absolutely. I 100% agree with you. I just wanted to make it
Yeah.
more, nuanced, so that it's not something that is just coming out of assuming that, yes, people
Yeah.
first leader.
Yeah.
There are actually stats, there's data, there are case studies,
Yeah.
observations, years of connecting with people to actually understand that, yes, people first leadership actually is effective.
Absolutely. And Asana, if I could add one more wrinkle to that, and
Mhm.
what's interesting is for decades, stay with me on this one. Um, birth rates have been going down globally.
Yeah.
So industrialized countries, most birth rates are less than two people, which means the workforce is shrinking.
Yes.
And then combined with that, the fastest growing generation, Gen Z, is now asking for meaning to their work. There was a study in 2023 by Live Career that interviewed 1,200 people, and they said 72% of Gen Z participants would take a pay cut if their work had more meaning and more purpose.
Yeah. Right.
So I think what's happening is if you're a leader out there and you're saying you don't need to do this, it's coming. It's going to be harder to retain talent with the old school approach.
Yeah.
And quite frankly, you're not going to attract it because I think the Gen Z population is not going to put up with it.
100%. Couldn't agree more with you, plus. Um, and excuse me. What's your take on this, Chris? That can leadership be taught, developed in others, or is it something that comes from experience,
I,
age?
yeah, personally, I've had the opportunity to develop and mentor a number of people. And what I
Mhm.
can tell you is I believe leadership can be taught. And the reason I say that is of the number of supervisors or managers I've worked with individually and help them to get them back on course.
Mm.
So sometimes people need a nudge to unlearn some things that they've learned and that they can be more effective. So does experience help? Absolutely. But I do genuinely believe that we can develop and grow leaders and teach them to be better. But it probably goes from that fundamental question of, am I open to growth? Am I open to change? Because if you have a leader, even if they are losing people left and right and are not hitting their business targets, if they're not open to change or open to grow, then Sana, to your point, you can't do much with that.
Absolutely. And I believe it should start at the elementary level itself, in schools and classes.
Yep. Yep.
Not only that, when you have like when you first get into the workforce, then it starts. I think from school itself, at the
Yeah,
element fundamental levels, our teachers, our fellow students, senior students, there should be an environment to foster leadership.
I agree. I agree. And I think one of the ways that we're going to fix this is we need to recognize that you don't start training leaders when they become a manager or a director.
Mm.
You start training people as leaders when they walk in the door
Yep.
because everybody has peers. So it's how you lead yourself, how you lead your peers, set those expectations and develop that and grow that within the company so that then when they are ready to have direct reports, they've already started to grow develop as leaders and you're not untraining them of bad habits that they may have picked up along the way.
Mm.
Because
Ah.
it goes to the statement. So how we define inspirational leadership is we leverage a John Quincy Adams quote. And that is if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you're an inspirational leader. And the reason I bring that up is there's no title, is anybody can help others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more. And
Exactly.
we need to recognize that that's everybody. And if we're going to develop leaders, don't just focus on people leaders or managers and directors. It has to truly be everybody.
Exactly. I think that's the highlight, the key takeaway here. It could be highlight. It doesn't have to be a specific CEO or CEO director. It can be
Mm.
anyone. It can be a mentor, it can be your peer, it can be your colleague.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And people are doing it every day. It's just they don't maybe recognize themselves as leaders.
So, Chris, I wish we could go on and on this because this is interesting and such a necessary
Yeah.
um, discussion and conversation, especially in today's context.
Yeah.
How if our listeners, especially the founders and the
Yeah.
business owners, leaders of tomorrow, they would like to connect with you, what would be the best way?
Yeah. Definitely the two ways are connect via LinkedIn. Always message me or reach out and connect, or our website, Enluma Group, Enluma group.com. There's the ability to reach out and connect. Happy to connect and share ideas if people just want to talk, love to talk, and there's always an opportunity to learn from each other.
Wonderful. I'll make sure to have all the links in the show notes for our
Great.
listeners. Chris, thank you so much for reminding all of us today that leadership isn't always loud. It is often intentional.
Yep.
It's quiet and it's deeply, deeply human.
Yeah.
So thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sana. Take care.
And to all the listeners out there, as we have heard from Chris, the best leaders, they don't just extract results, they expand people. They can be your colleagues, they can be your friends, mentors, maybe your family members as well. So, if you are leading a team, building a culture, or just trying to become a more conscious contributor, ask yourself, who are you inspiring and how? And thanks to everyone for tuning into this episode of BizBlend. Don't forget to subscribe, share this episode with someone who leads with heart, and also leave us a review. Until next time, lead boldly, but lead kindly. Thank you.